Okay, well, let's actually take an example of a cosine function, and let's think about all of the A, B, C, and D options that what happens when we have all this stuff in here, all right? This does not look as pretty as y equals cosine of x, does it? Looks pretty complicated, but we can still do it, all right? Because all we have to do is to identify what our A values, the B's, the C's, and the D's are, okay? So first of all here, the A value of this equation is 3. Now somebody is out there saying, why wasn't it -3? And just remember, the negative just simply means that we're going to reflect this graph, or it's going to be a reflection of what the normal cosine is, a reflection over the x-axis. And so we know the amplitude and we know what the negative sign does. Now, we also know that the period of a cosine function is 2 pi divided by b, which in this case is 2 pi divided by 2 pi, which is 1. Okay, now a lot of people are like, wait a second, how can it be 1? What's that mean? Well, it's 1 radian. Okay, anytime we're talking about pi, we're working with pi's. Pi is a radian measurement. And so this period is going to be 1 radian. All right, we'll talk more about that. Now, so we use the B. Now the C, remember, if we take bx minus c and set it equal to 0, we'll find out where this function should start. So that means that 2 pi x plus 4 pi equals 0. Subtract 4 pi, divide by 4 pi, and don't we get x equaling -2? You know, if you divide by 2 pi here, the pi's cancel, -4 divided by 2. So this is going to start at -2. If we do 2 pi x plus 4 pi and set it equal to 2 pi, now we'll find out where this should end, but I can pretty much make a prediction. If it starts at -2 and the period is 1 radian, this better end at -1. Let's see if that's what happens. Subtract 4 pi, 2 pi x then equals -2 pi. Divide by your 2 pi, and sure enough, x equals -1. All right, so here's where we're going to start, and here's where we're going to end in one period of this graph. The good news is there is no D. There is nothing to move this vertically up or down, all right? No vertical shift. And so all we're going to have to concentrate on is the information we have right here, all right? So let's take that information that we just dealt with. We know that the amplitude is 3. We know that the period is 1 radian. We know that we should start at -2 and wind up at -1. And we also know that there is a reflection here. And what are we talking about? Well, we're talking about the cosine function, all right? Y equals cosine of x. So here we go. I'm going to make a graph, and I'm going to put a -2 here and a -1 here. Now remember, one thing that you have to do is you have to decide, I've got to break this up into 4 equal parts, all right? Which means I need 3 tick marks in there, 3 lines. So how do I know what the label should be on this right here? Well, it's very easy. Take your period and divide it by 4. 1 divided by 4, well, that's 0.25. Or some people might even want to just look at it as 1/4. So I know then if I subtract 0.25 from this right here, that's -1.75. That's -1.50. That's -1.25. And that's -1. Okay? Now, down here where 0 is, can you imagine my y-axis? Can you imagine the amplitude is 3, correct? And so at -2, the cosine is normally 1, but the amplitude, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, the amplitude makes that become 3. The reflection makes that become -3, doesn't it? All right. Then the cosine of then the next value is 0, then 3, then 0, then back down to -3. And so here is 1 period of that graph. If we wanted to keep on going, if we wanted to go all the way to 0, we could keep subtracting our 0.25, and we'd have the same pattern happening. All right? And so that's what that graph is going to look like, all based on the A, the B, and the C. Okay? That's how we do this. And based on the original cosine function that we learned about in this chapter. All right? Let's look at one more. All right? Let's look at one more problem here. Y, it's not plus. Don't want plus. Y equals 2 plus 3 cosine of 2x. Okay? A value, still 3. Okay, it's not 1, it's 3. Period, well, it's simply 2 pi divided by b, which is 2 pi divided by 2, which means the period of this cosine is pi. Normal is 2 pi. This is going to be pi. All right? If we take our bx plus c, or minus c, which in this case is just a 2x, okay, there's no minus or plus there with it, and solve for x, oh, this is going to start at x equals 0. Where's it going to end? Well, solve 2x equals 2 pi. Oh, it's going to end at pi. Does that make sense? If the period is pi, if it starts at 0, should it end at pi? It better. And then we have a d value here. The d value is 2. What that means, it's going to move the whole graph up 2 units. Okay? So let's see if we can graph it here. All right? We're starting at 0. That'll be 0 right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, I know that it's going to pi. This is 0. What am I going to make? What am I going to put here for these intervals? What are they? Well, all you have to do is take your period, which is pi, and divide it by 4. And then we're going to add pi over 4 from 0. What's 0 plus pi over 4? Oh, it's pi over 4. Yeah. What's pi over 4 plus pi over 4? Well, it's 1 pi plus 1 pi. That's 2 pi over 4. But that can be reduced to pi over 2, can't it? What if I add another pi over 4? Well, that would be 3 pi over 4, which I can't reduce. And then 3 pi over 4 plus another pi over 4 is 4 pi over 4. Oh, guess what? That's pi. Okay? So simply by adding this over and over again, you find out what all of those angle measures are. Now then, normally with a cosine, if the amplitude was 3, we'd be right here, wouldn't we, to start with? But we have to move that up 2 units, so that's going to be right here. All right? Okay. And what's happening now is this line that used to be kind of the dividing line has now been moved up to right here. This is now the dividing line. So from there, 1, 2, 3 amplitude. Okay? This will be at the middle line. This will be 1, 2, 3 amplitude. This one will be at the middle line. This one will be back up, 1, 2, 3 above the middle line. And so now, there is a graph running from 0 to pi. All right? I hope that helps you out here in this chapter. All right. Good luck.